agenda.
We need to add things, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You need
Does
to
anybody make that motion? Of adding?
amend the
'Cause I don't remember
agenda
what
to
it was.
add item E, which would be non-certified / administration stipends. And then we were also going to address head custodian pay under that as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have motion and second to amend the agenda to add item E, which is non-cert / administrator and head custodian stipends. All those.
No, head custodian pay.
Head custodian pay, excuse me.
Non-certified administrative stipends and head custodian pay was the recommendation.
Head custodian pay. Okay, thank you, Diane.
Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, thank you. Item 2, board member and administrator reports.
All right.
Hello.
Hi. Terry is signing in here. Oh, you guys just like to take one and send it around?
Ooh.
We've got a slideshow here. It's only about 6 slides. This is not the slideshow. This is more of the meat. They are linked into the slideshow, so I decided to print them off for you guys so you can take them home and write on them and go old school.
Old school's good.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
This is for Tiffany. You got me.
I'm like typing when everybody's watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't do too well.
Now we're gonna get to see all your Gmail for the day.
Yes. And there's a lot.
All right. All right, so if we go to the next slide here. So last year we started talking about MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support. We use a lot of acronyms in education. Really what this really is that kids come to us with a continuum of needs. Some of them are really high on the side where they know more than what they're supposed to, and they're kind of bored. And then you've got those that are really struggling because they may be more than a year or so behind. How do you meet all those needs? And that's sort of what MTSS tries to address. It looks at students' needs behaviorally, academically, and emotionally. And we look at it in terms of 3 tiers. It's sort of a way to triage what you got in front of you. So if you go to the next slide here, we talk about 3 tiers in MTSS. Tier 1 is what every student at a grade level will receive, which is why it's called a universal support. So think about your grade level curriculum there. Every student in 1st grade is going to get 1st grade curriculum, whether or not they're technically operating above 1st grade or they're operating below 1st grade. We need to give them 1st grade content. So everybody gets that. That's tier 1. Tier 2 is then some students, after they've received that content, they're still not quite getting it and they're still struggling. It's our job then to try to get them to where they need to be. And sometimes think of tier 2 as students that might be less than a year behind, up to about a year behind. Tier 3 are for those students that are more than a year behind. And so what we typically try to do in terms of triaging that is tier 1 is your curriculum, that's everybody's getting it. Tier 2 might be a program that we decide to add that we could do in small groups with kids so that we can take advantage of efficiencies so that we have, let's say, a group of 5 or 6 kids that all need this particular skill. You give them that particular skill at that particular time instead of being redundant and doing it over and over and over again in different pockets with kids. So it's trying to be more efficient with it. But once you get up to tier 3, because the students are more than a year, sometimes behind, it's going to be a much more individualized approach. So it's not going to be one kind of set program. It's going to be where are this student's skills? How far do we have to go back? And we're going to have to then start the work of layering in what they need. So it's a way for us at the building level to basically make decisions with the data. Students come to us, we decide that we need to benchmark them. We test them in the fall, we test them in the winter, we test them in the spring. We want to see whether or not our curriculum is moving them forward. And for the kids that it's not moving forward enough, what are we doing to intervene in those months in between those tests? Which is why then we do a lot of progress monitoring, which is for the kids that are at tier 3, about weekly, we're checking in to see where they're at. Why? Because they have a lot more ground to make up. And so we have to really be checking to see whether or not they're learning the skills we're teaching. At tier 2, we're basically going to support them by giving them assessments every other week to see if our instruction and our intervention is working for them. And so when we talk about building the system, we're talking about building it at all 3 tiers. What are we doing during the class during core instruction? What are we doing during an RTI, or what we might call win time, what I need, which would be an extra like 30 minutes during the day, versus what are we going to do for tier 3 for students that are really far behind? And we're not even talking about special ed yet. This is MTSS is for all kids, whether you're general ed or special ed. It's just what do you need and how do we best support you? Go to the next slide. So as I said, their MTSS is for all students. It's not just a special ed initiative. Now, we started looking at it as a district because we were over identifying students based on state average. About 30%, 28%, I think was what the number we got at the beginning of this year when the state average was around 18. So the state looks at that going, why are there so much more special ed students in this district? One of the things they want us to look at is, are your tiers of support working for our kids? Which is why we're looking at shoring up our curriculum maps in reading and math this year. That's what the grade level teams have been working on, to make sure our tier 1 is as strong as it can be. The idea there is that you want to make sure your tier 1 is as strong as it's going to be, because you don't want to keep borrowing resources from tier 2 and tier 3 to plug holes, when those holes, if we plug them to begin with, we wouldn't be losing kids through the cracks in those gaps. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we're doing, is we're trying to look at things through 3 different lenses. How we work, how's it working for all kids? How's it working for some kids? And how's it working for the ones that are the most needy? Leadership is vital in MTSS, because when we meet to make those decisions about kids, a lot of times the conversations end up, especially if we're talking about tier 2 and tier 3, they're talking about time and resources. And that's really where an administrator has to weigh in on it, because we're saying that it's an opportunity cost. If a student's going to be getting extra assistance in math and reading, there's going to be a time in the day where they're not getting something else, which is why schools have decided to start creating like a win time, where it's across the board. Everybody is getting what they need. It's just a matter of, what is it that you need? Do you need remediation, or do you need challenging work to do during this time? That's part of the vision here, is that we want to be able to challenge all of our kids. What are we doing during that time? Scientific, research-based core instruction. We use assessments a lot, not only for identifying who are the students in need, but then is the support we're giving them working? And then really then what it comes down to, the nuts and the bolts, is what you're seeing in the documents there. It's creating a response protocol, so that we have a systematic, consistent response to our data across the building. It's not necessarily dependent on the person sitting in that classroom at that time. It's the system that we've created, that we're all going to look at data at these times of the year. We're going to identify the kids that need extra support, and then we're going to monitor that support to see whether or not they're making the gains that they need. If they're not making the gains, that's an indication that the intervention is not the right intervention, and it's time to try something different. So the data guides our instructional decisions. The other piece to MTSS is that the educators involved are the ones that are with the kids. They are respected people. They are experts there. They're the ones that are going to be telling us whether on day to day these interventions and things that the building teams are trying to help with, whether they're worth it, whether they're working. You go to the next slide, please. So here at North Newton, we had teams from every building that were working with Jonna Atkins from Tools for Success to work on these documents that you see in front of you. A lot of this year was because a lot of this stuff is kind of a different way of operating. It was sort of wrapping our minds around what we're doing, why we want to do it differently. There's a lot of defining of terms, so that we're not necessarily just using the acronyms and not really knowing what we're talking about, because that happens a lot in our circles. We were going through process to identify what do we have in terms of resources, tests, interventions that we currently have that we want to keep using, or what's out there that we'd like to explore. And also then mapping out the flow of how these processes are supposed to work. Again, the goal is to make a consistent, systematic response across all buildings for identifying kids needing intervention, monitoring the progress of that intervention, and then evaluating whether or not it's even effective. I believe there might be one more. Is that the last one? Nope. Okay. So the district created the documents that you have there. The first 5 pages are what we're calling the guidebook. The MTSS guidebook is kind of like the really like nuts and bolts of why it's set up this way, how it's supposed to function. It's got all the data, all the information for you. So that if you were a brand new person coming in, it's explaining sort of from start to finish how this works at tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, and how we move students through those tiers for support. Then the flow charts that you see, the graphic and then the listed, they're basically just shortened forms of the guidebook for people to refer to that after they've looked at the guidebook for just a kind of a reminder. The graphic is obviously more of a flow chart that looks more like for people that are more visual. And then the listed one is more bulleted out for you to get the kind of down and dirty, just the facts. You know, it's just kind of, it's like a one-pager kind of thing. So there are still things in those documents that we're going to be cleaning up this summer. There's a lot of live embedded links that we have for like forms or like Google Forms to ask for a meeting and stuff like that. We've created a lot of those things to help support this. It's just that right now that all the links aren't necessarily live. So once we clean that up, the idea is that we'll roll this out then in the fall when staff come back. And then we have then built into our calendar, hopefully this year with all of our meetings and stuff, we've got some built-in check-in dates for the district-wide MTSS team to reconvene in the fall, as well as different points throughout the year to see how is this going in our first year and where do we need to do some troubleshooting, because it will be new. And I will say that it'll definitely be, it's going to be a harder one to wrap their minds around the secondary level, because it's definitely different in terms of how they see things. It's just the way elementary and secondary are just set up differently. So some of the ways that this will look at the high school is going to look differently than at the elementary, just because the base schedule is very different. So we're going to have to make it fit each of our settings, but the general principles are still kind of in those documents that you see. And that's MTSS as of right now.
Questions?
Yes.
So on the MTSS first year for me, first year I heard it this year. Julia was talking about it in the past. We are going to have it at both levels, at the elementary and the high school, because I know there was confusion about whether that was going to be, it was only for elementary, but okay, so we are.
Yes.
And now we're going to roll that out training wise for this summer, or is it something we kick off at the beginning of the school year? How's that work? Okay. And then.
Yes. So the idea is that the administrative team hasn't like set down the actual plan for this yet, but the idea is that we want to roll out sort of the foundation of what MTSS is, and then it's going to be up to, like, let's say at the secondary, they're going to take that idea back to their building and say, okay, how do we bake this into what we do, but in a way that fits the way that we have to do business at school? Because the elementary, from start to finish, our day just flows differently than secondary. So we can't necessarily say this is what it's going to look like at the secondary. Right. They're the ones on the ground that know kind of schedules, they know resources, they're going to know how to make this fit their needs better.
And have they been in this process of setting?
There were secondary people in that process.
And then last question, I think you clarified, but I just want to make sure. Obviously, this fills the gaps for the students that have issues with keeping up or whatever, but you are going to cover, if I remember correctly, all the kids that are better, get bored. And
so I've been doing MTSS work for the last 17 years. The consultant that we're working with is more focused on students that are struggling. My vision for MTSS is for everybody. And my argument is that kids that are above grade level are just as at risk, because if their needs aren't being met, they'll check out.
I have one of those. That's why I'm saying it.
Absolutely. So it's up to us to figure out ways to challenge them during that time. And that can be done in a lot of ways. It could be a lot of personal, it could be projects, it could be group projects, it could be doing research and creating products and things like that. It doesn't necessarily all have to be direct instruction. It's just thinking about, like, before kids ever show up, we really know what's going on here. It's what do kids have to know? It's the curriculum. How do we know that they know it? It's the assessment. What do we do when they don't know it? That's instruction. And what do we do when they already know it? That's the fourth one. That's still instruction. So we could already have a plan for those 4 questions before kids show up. It's just a matter of who needs which of those 4 things.
I guess last question is I know the other teacher, and she's not here today, but she always asks about, is this going to tie in with our paraprofessionals filling in those gaps? Is that how that piece of the pie is?
They're very important. They're a very
Okay.
important part of this.
And then on the fiscal side, does that mean other programs that we need to bring in, or is that just something that we're trying to?
Yes,
Okay.
there will be other things that we have to bring in just because that we don't have
those.
we don't have enough
That's to fill
effective
those?
tools right now.
Okay.
So when it comes to assessments, when it comes to some interventions, we've got stuff that are piecemeal around, but we don't have enough that we can say we're using consistently. And that's part of the game right now has been trying to figure out what do we actually have on hand that we can make use of, or what is it out there that's going to give us the most bang for our buck. And we're looking to go like making some recommendations of pretty cost-effective things. It's just going to require a little more work on our end.
Perfect. Oh, that was my questions. Thank you.
And this whole program is the reason why there's any parents out there who are negatively impacted or have a negative opinion about early release every week. This is the reason why, because you guys will be able to regroup once a week when our kids get out an hour early every Wednesday so that you guys can stay on top of it. Do what
So
you guys
if we are
need to
providing
do.
interventions like that or extension or enrichment, it requires more coordination. It requires more communication. And when a lot of our teachers are teaching kind of on their own, like as singletons in a building, their opportunities to collaborate are a lot harder. So they may be having some of the same, a teacher at Morocco in sixth grade may be having some of the same problems as Lake Village with the sixth graders, but because they're not normally off at the same time and able to talk, they're not able to share strategies that were working well for their sixth graders. So they don't get the opportunity of learning from each other, which is part of this process that we want to start building in is how do you learn from each other? Because a lot of this stuff you can learn from reading, but really a lot of the stuff is when educators are teaching other educators what works. That's the powerful stuff.
So this is going to be more also in collaboration between our staff.
That's the goal.
Because
Try to break people out of their silos.
Right, because I'm new here, but what we're finding out, Mike was just bringing up even the purchasing around here was individually by buildings and just the organization. Everything was like their own separate island. But if you come as a corporation and bring everything together, it's going to benefit the community, the kids, the program, the teachers. So I'm glad to hear that.
What I used to tell teachers is that one teacher can't be expected to make up for all the deficits in their classroom. There's just too much nowadays. When you're talking about behaviorally, social, emotionally, academically, it requires collaboration. It requires the school working together because it can't be just on that one teacher. That's why paraprofessionals are so important in this process. That's why the leadership's important in the process. Everybody has a role to play if this is going to work best for kids.
And it's good to talk between schools, between teachers.
Absolutely.
So that's what you're going to use the early release for. Are you guys going to do it via Zoom sometimes, so everybody doesn't have to travel? Or you guys
we haven't worked out the details to that yet. We're still kind of sketching out the year. Right now, we've got a draft of basically every early release of what we want to cover, and then on some of the long days, what are some of the things that we have scheduled for that. We're also going to be layering in some of the Love and Logic stuff that the other principals went away to Denver for. They brought that stuff back. We're able to break that down into some bite-sized chunks so that it's not going to be overwhelming to staff. They'll be able to get like a little bit, and then maybe like the next month they'll get a little bit more to practice. And that's kind of how we're going to work on the relationship building and the classroom management part of it, which is a big part too.
Great, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
Right?
District-wide.
Okay.
Awesome. Yep. The four of us are working pretty close together. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you. Dr. Mike?
All right, I don't have much tonight. Well, it's not going to sound like much, but it's been a lot. Past couple of weeks, really been looking at how we can reward our non-certified and folks not covered by the CBA, as well as our administrators for the great work that they've been putting in this year during what can only be described as some difficult times. So have really dove into that. Had hoped to have cash flows for you tonight. We're not there just yet. We're getting our arms around it, but instead of giving you kind of where I feel things are, I'd rather come back at likely the next meeting and show you where we're pacing, and then that's going to help us project forward. So do have some recommendations that we'll talk about later tonight. So how we can award and recognize the great work done by our hardworking folks, and then we'll have further recommendations for you at subsequent meetings. But one of them that I do want to highlight is we're looking at what it would look like if we raised the minimum wage across the district to $16 an hour, including paras, custodians, cafeteria workers, uh, and other non-certified staff, as well as what it would look like for the option to give paras, if they so choose, to work up to 7 hours a day. So those are the things that we are diving into right now, as well as the other thing too is summer. The misgiving, and is that what do you do over the summer? You do a lot preparing for the next school year. So we're revising handbooks as well, and really similar to zero-based budgeting, we're zero-based creating procedures and structures and systems here as well that will outlast me and outlast a board. Will really put the district on firm footing. So it's looks pretty boring from day to day, but I like the direction we're going with it.
I just want to say good luck to our girls of South Newton or sectionals tonight for the softball game. So
And the boys, they got section.
boys are not too.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
good luck for them too. I have nothing else though, Tess.
Anybody else have anything?
No.
Okay. I assume that we're skipping over item 3, recognition.
They
I'm not here.
are not here, so
That's our
it's Miss
retiree.
Kovacs, right?
Yeah.
We do want to recognize Miss Kovacs for her decades of service, and we did get her a gift. She was unable to be here tonight, so hopefully she can come to another meeting.
Because we had a couple others too, so
Yeah.
hopefully, they'll be able to come next month.
Okay, moving on to item 4, non-action items. A, the North Newton Administrative Handbook.
Okay, last meeting we talked about item A's, B, and C, combining all 3 of them into just one master handbook. Diane and I are going to be tag teaming, going through and making the little corrections as far as making sure that all the policies align up with our policies. The correct ones are there, but the numbers also, there's like the professional staff, there's certified staff, the non-certs. It's just you got to make sure that the policies are correctly there. So we're going to go through, we're going to tag team that. And then once that's done, we're going to ship it over to Dr. Mike, and then we're just going to, and then we'll review that sucker.
Yeah.
And make sure it's all good to go.
When we get it consolidated, is there any chance we can do like a workshop or something to go over?
Oh,
changes
absolutely.
and
I'm down
stuff?
for that. We've done that before.
I
Yeah.
just, for us that are not doing, you girls are doing great on the policy and procedure committee, but I'd like to have an opportunity, whether we sit and have a workshop and discuss it and just what you're going over.
Yeah.
Because if not, we're reading it blindly and
Yep.
basing it off of that. I'd rather have Mike put his 2 cents in, other board members that have been here, maybe some of our administrators put some stuff in there, just have a general couple-hour workshop to go over that before we vote on it.
Yeah.
finalize
We've
it.
done that before. I think we did, was it the safety handbooks? We had an open study session. Took about 2.5 hours, but we worked our way through it.
Perfect.
It was open to the public, and we just went through it. Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
no problem.
Okay, moving on to item 5, set agenda. Item A, the executive session board meeting minutes of 5/14/25, the regular board minutes of 5/14/25. Item C, donations. Item D, field trip request. Item E, the financial claims and reports.
I have a question. I'll make a motion to approve the executive regular board minutes, the donations, field trip requests, and the claims and docket, the reports, and the consent vote. Yeah, so that's my motion. I'll second it.
Discussion on any of the
On the field request, Fraser, is who determined, it's a question I've had people ask me in the public, and also just in general terms, who chooses and how do we choose what our kids go to for field trips? Because we're in a rural community and an agricultural community. When I grew up in a similar environment, we went to, like a Rose Acres, or we went to a nut processing where they literally process the animals in front of you. And 40 years ago, whatever that was, it still sticks in my head. And I remember that as a second or third grader. I mean, who in our school picks our field trips and what they do? Because I have interest in, I know the constituents have interest in that. How does that work?
Can be teachers,
Okay.
can be groups, similar to an extracurricular group or a academic group. And actually, and then you see, again, I'm giving you kind of my general understanding. Sometimes there are experiences that you have, like, that every fourth grade goes to the first Capitol in Corydon or something like that. I will defer to teachers. I know, Mr. DeYoung takes quite a few, and Mr. Klein, if you have any comment as well on, I mean, that pretty much sums it up, though.
Yeah, you have different groups. So you have sports, you have ECA, you have the club. So like, trip, I took my welding students to keep it because I felt like that was an opportunity for them to see what they class by a plus. There's opportunity.
Correct. So all those requests usually start from the teachers,
Usually.
and then from there go to our administrators for
There were some
approval.
historically that were traditional, didn't some like the certain grades would go to.
Yeah, like over where I went to Wawasee, and we went to the Fort Wayne had a fort over there, and every year third grade went to the fort. And
So it depends on your geographic area.
do we have anything like that here that we geographically got taken to Fair Oaks Farms?
Fifth grade goes to Fort Weatman.
Okay.
Every fall,
Interesting.
Yes, the root of that is usually the staff, the teachers.
The younger ones usually go to Fair Oaks.
Something you will see is what I don't know, and it's ignorance on my part right now, is if we have parity among schools, whether Morocco get an experience that's fifth graders at Lake Village or Lincoln might not. You do see in districts where they do look for that, that certain core experiences, that kind of what you were describing, or they were describing, that every grade level does, so they have that exposure.
Some of the grades used to go to like Fort Weatman and Lafayette and stuff. So, and then some of them used to go to Biztown. I don't know if some of the elementaries are still doing that.
Yeah, fifth grade.
Yeah.
I signed to Biztown.
Yeah, but they do go to the Fort Weatman. So.
Mm-hmm.
Do we, Mr. DeYoung, you've been here the longest, other than maybe a couple other, are the field trips declining in our outage experience for our children, or is it standard, or is it?
There's probably some teachers that don't take any field trips.
Go ahead, Eva.
Most of mine are standard because we have a kind of a schedule we follow with FFA and activities. I try to throw in one or two at the most for my class.
I'll say that, like, when with staff turnover, stuff that's gone wayside, if they're not informed, like, hey, this was a typical or common
Traditional
in grade 4, but
We'll put that in our collective bargaining this coming summer.
but like, I think some of that's happened.
I just think it's a good thing. I think kids look forward to it. Obviously, you all probably remember your field trips that you had and I remember some of mine. I've had people ask about it. The lady in the back is.
Eva.
One of our biggest hindrances is our busing, because our bus routes have at 1:30.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's a good thing for us to know.
too many places we can go and get back by 1:30.
Yeah.
And then it can become cost prohibitive because you have to contract with a coach line or someone to come.
Unless you can do it yourself.
Well, and truly, it's kind of a nightmare, because back when, like, I would have to plan a lot of the SRC trips, collaborating with teachers as far as, hey, what are your grades going to be interested in? What would they like to do? And trying to find a place that was close enough and something fun for the kids to do. But then it's always, oh, hey, we can leave by like 8:30, 8:45, but then we have to be back by 1:30 because the high school, we have so many bus drivers doing those dual routes, they have to be back by 2:15 at the latest. Otherwise, our high school kids aren't going to get home. So it's just kind of, that's, you can't, like when I was in school, we would go up to Chicago and we would go to the Field Museum. We would go to the Museum of Science and Industry.
Flags.
Yeah, Six Flags. We would go a little farther out, but you can't do that when we're strapped for our bus drivers and time. I mean, granted, there are bus drivers that are teachers that have filled out request forms, which does come through for us to have to approve because they would be returning after normal dismissal time. So let's say the kids want to go to Indiana Beach, and then hey, guess what? Sixth grade parents, they're not. You have to sign off on a field trip form. Kids are going to be back by 6 p.m. That would give us a little bit more wiggle room.
There used to be a field trip. They would go to the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, but they went on a Saturday. One of the grades, because both my kids went to that when they were at Morocco. But the Saturday didn't hinder the time thing then.
Yeah.
Virtual has changed that a little too, so.
Really?
Well, so if I planned an activity or had a field trip traditionally and I find something online or YouTube, or I can have a virtual field trip and it might be just as easy. It might be almost just.
Well, taking your kids to a dairy farm, you ain't gonna get that on virtual.
I know. Don't get the full experience.
Can't get the smell,
Yeah, and I've had people ask, my first year, I wanted to know how that worked out. I hope it keeps going. I hope teachers, and we can fund it and figure out ways to make it, because I think it is a lasting experience if you get one or two of those. Sometimes that's the biggest thing some kids get to do. They don't get to do anything else.
I know at the State House, 4-H and FFA, they just approved. Those are used as.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some people don't have the ability to go on vacation or do trips, and they do their own one. So, thank you.
We need to vote.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else had any more questions on anything.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items A through F. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Item 6, personnel reports. Do I have a motion and a second for the personnel reports?
I think we're going to go through these individually. I'm trying to get to this.
May I make a comment as well?
Please do. You have a sheet.
For the personnel report? No, I have it on my phone.
I have been requested to pull the recommendation for varsity assistant, freshman, sophomore assistant.
Okay.
What is it for varsity assistant freshman sophomore? That one?
That's it.
Yeah.
Here,
don't
which
say
one
the
are you
name.
talking about?
Don't say the name.
That one?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
personnel. We can't.
When did you get that?
5 minutes before walking up here, I meant to mention it.
I have this paper copy, or Tyson's got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to repeat your motion, please?
There was no motion. It was we're going to go through these individually. I'm looking for the sheet and I can't find it. Is there anything?
Tyson's got it.
I have the sheet.
I'm sorry. Is it the same as what I had?
You got it. It's right there.
Yeah. Okay.
So you could go up. It's this one right here. Go down one. Now, where's your other page?
That's it.
You're missing a page. There.
You know what? This is the one that's posted on public. I didn't pull the administrative one, so they didn't have this on the
Okay.
public.
Well,
That's why.
we can share it.
Yeah. My motion is to approve Gavin's or the
Certified personnel?
certified personnel and support staff personnel as requested. And then we'll go through that
Okay, so approve certified and support staff.
as requested.
And for the extracurricular, you want to,
Yeah, if anybody has
One
any
by-
questions about whether they want to vote for one or not, they should be allowed to do that.
okay, so you want to break it up in three.
Right. The first two have my motion for those.
So one,
And it was seconded.
two.
Let me use the second.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve of the certified personnel, support staff personnel.
Yep.
And then
We're doing all the
Extracurricular.
extracurricular one by one.
one by one.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor of certified personnel, support staff personnel being proven, and doing the extracurricular one by one, raise your right hand. Okay.
And Mike, on our personnel report, just FYI, the one I downloaded was the, what do we call that?
It's the
one
public.
facing out to the public, and the one that's we have here, so it doesn't have everything. So what they're seeing is not
Yeah.
the same as what we're seeing.
Okay.
So we just need to fix that.
And I'm going to play Todd Salmons for a second.
Don't read the names and just read the
No,
position.
what you did was you amended to vote for the first two
Mm-hmm.
and then the third separately. So you need to approve the first two
Okay,
now.
Okay.
Then you can go on to the coaches.
okay.
Wonderful. Okay.
In the minutes, it's gonna be motion to approve certified and support staff as requested. Motion by Michael, seconded by Sam, and then we need to take a vote for the minutes. That, and then we do the,
So we need another motion.
Yeah.
And now it's a motion that I move that we approve the certified and support staff as recommended,
That was my original motion.
okay,
and then split them out. Yeah.
I didn't make that part of my motion.
Okay.
You got it in, but
Okay.
okay.
yeah. My motion is to approve the certified and support staff personnel as requested.
Okay. Seconded by Sam, and then we vote on this, and then we're gonna vote separately
Yeah.
for the other one. Okay,
Okay. All right. So can we take a vote then?
Mhm.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. There we go. Now let's move on to the extracurricular. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to extracurricular personnel. Okay, we have the head varsity football coach for the 25-26 football season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the head varsity football coach for the 25-26 football season?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Michael. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. Personnel number 2 is the head varsity volleyball coach for the 25-26 volleyball season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. Next position is the head varsity boys basketball coach for the 25-26 boys basketball season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the head varsity boys basketball coach?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Next position is the head varsity girls basketball coach for the 25-26 girls basketball season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the head varsity girls basketball coach for the 25-26 girls basketball season?
Motion to approve.
I will second. All those in favor? What?
I was waiting for the second, but you did it. Yeah.
Nope. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Passes 5-0. Next position is the head varsity girls, or no, excuse me, head varsity cross country co-ed coach for the 25-26 cross country season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the head varsity cross country coach for the 25-26 cross country season?
I'll make
Move
a
to
motion.
approve.
Oh.
Who wants it?
She can have it, I'll second.
Okay.
Thank you, Diane and Michael. All those in favor to approve the head varsity cross country co-ed coach for the 25-26 school season? Thank you. It's 5-0. Next position is the head varsity girls golf coach for the 25-26 girls golf season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the head varsity girls golf coach for the 25-26 season?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
I abstain.
That is fine.
4-0.
1, right?
Mm-hmm.
4.
4-0.
Oh, shoot.
I got it.
My notes don't matter. Yours, you guys' are the officials. This is just for me scribbling so I don't lose track where I'm at.
All right.
Next is the JV volleyball coach for the 25-26 volleyball season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the JV volleyball coach for the 25-26 volleyball season?
Motion to approve.
I will second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Next position is the varsity football assistant coach. I don't know what HC coach is.
Yes, assistant head coach.
Okay, assistant head coach. For the 25-26 football season, do I have a motion and a second to approve the varsity football assistant head coach position for the 25-26 football season?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you.
We get some clarification from Mr. Can we show him this real quick? Which one of these is your saying scratch? Because we have this.
That is the one. That's
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that is the one they should
Yeah.
make sure everybody understands. Thank you.
Next position is the varsity football assistant coach for the 25-26 football season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the varsity football assistant coach for the 25-26 football season?
Move to approve.
Second it.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5, thank you. The next position has been scratched. That was for the varsity assistant, freshman, sophomore assistant for the 25-26 football season. So we move on to the next one, which is the junior high football head coach for the 25-26 football season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the junior high football head coach for the 25-26 football season?
Motion to approve.
I will second. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you. Okay, and then no one abstained, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, shoot, I put that in the wrong column. Next position is the junior high football assistant coach for the 25-26 football season. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the junior high football assistant coach for the 25-26 football season?
Move to approve.
I will second. Favor, raise your right hand.
I
All
abstain.
those opposed? And one
You said you abstained.
Yep, 4-0-1. Like that's it, isn't it?
I think that's all I
According
had.
to my paper, it's gone. Okay. All right, moving on to action items. First one we have is item A, which is the out of district, excuse me, transfer request for the 25-26 school year.
Motion to approve
Okay.
Which one was this one, sorry?
the out of district transfer request for 25-26.
Do we have, oh,
We have two. Okay, so we have, okay, well, we can talk about it.
they're coming in or going out?
They're coming, so they live out of district and they're coming to our district.
Nice.
Always a good thing.
Exactly, that's good. Double approved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the out of district student transfer request for 25-26 school year. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
There will likely be more of those coming too.
Nice.
Don't promise me that.
No, we've got a couple on my desk downstairs. So
Oh, good.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
wonderful.
Just for clarification purposes, we do check the address of these students, right? They're not coming from Illinois and they're not going to be
Yeah.
reported to the state of Indiana
South
as
Newton
Indiana
does that.
residents.
yeah, they give us an address.
Okay.
All right, thank God.
Thank you.
Okay.
We don't want to get in trouble.
No, it's very true.
No,
He,
I-
he doesn't know about the, he doesn't know about the situation.
Okay.
Item B, attendance on demand time clock. Dr. Razor, I will let you present that,
Sure.
please.
So members of the board and members of the community, currently we've gotten a new financial system that has been wonderful. But a byproduct of that is we have an old system called K-Time where hourly employees and people have to clock in. And every pay period, and this was the same in the old system, our finance staff have to manually take the information out of K-Time and load it into the Lao financial system. The system that we are proposing has a one-time fee, help me here because it's not in front of me, of $25,000 and then an annual expense of around 11. We easily spend that much staff time in a year doing this work. So this will greatly streamline that and will load directly into the financial software for us.
Oh, I think it is.
So will this free up all the time? Because it takes
Yes.
several days.
Approximately,
Do this,
it
doesn't
takes
it?
the staff approximately 72 days a year to do this.
Well, and to clarify for everybody, including most of the board knows this, but for the public, that K-Time system that was in the CompuTrol, they still had to manually pull the data from the K-Time system, manipulate it,
Yeah.
triple check it, and then import it into CompuTrol. This step will be export from the new time clock system in a file that automatically goes into the
Yeah.
system with a click of a button, and there will be no manipulation from our
So it
staff.
should help eliminate human error.
And from what
Yeah.
we've been understanding from Mike and our finance side, that's our biggest error is the minutia of catching the time. Because if you're a salary employee, it's pretty straightforward. You have a salary, you have whatever
Yeah.
benefits you're taking away, you just got to check. Hourly is the one where it fluctuates. So this will, as Patty's shaking her head back there, will help us and our employees and everybody.
Spend their
fix
time
it.
on other
Yeah.
things that need to get done.
So thank you for everybody's effort on all of this. I know they're reaping the benefits, but that's, for me, it's this board that put this all together. So thank you all.
So this should help some of our issues we've had in the past with some discrepancies
Yes.
on pay and
Yeah. And like you said, virtually eliminates human error because it loads automatically and there's no keying in manually.
like it.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote from Lao for our new time clock system, as requested.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the new time clock system.
And that quote, I'm sorry, includes all the new time clocks that actually
Yes.
have to be
Yeah.
installed too. Okay.
Yeah. One time
The tw-
equipment cost and then
There's an annual
annual
fee.
fee.
annual
And
fee.
Terry and Mike, did they get with you on, we're doing 1-for-1 replacement?
Yeah.
We're not adding any or taking any away, it's just 1-for-1. Who made the second? Sam?
I did. Yep.
And when do they give us, after we do this, a timeline of when it was, they said they got to build it and probably in a couple,
Yeah, I haven't.
weeks or something? Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully before the start of the new school year.
We should be set before the start of the school year.
All right, is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right, all those in favor to approve the attendance on demand time clock, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Item is item C. It's the approval to dispose of obsolete items. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the disposal of obsolete items?
Motion approved.
I will second.
Was it just books again? I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it.
Yeah, it's like almost 20 pages of books. Yeah.
Any other discussion on it?
If we, I guess now my question would be, since it's every meeting that I've been at, we've gotten rid of books. How much are we spending on buying new books? And what are we buying? You know, I mean, that's the question I have.
I can
Is it-
see from, because it's all from Lincoln right now, finding out that at the last meeting,
Mhm.
that Mrs. Funston said that they received $8,000, or they had $8,000 brought in from their book fair.
Mhm.
So the way Scholastic works is
So they're
that
using the money from that?
they can
Okay.
go ahead, like the way Scholastic works is that you get 50% of your profit if you decide to take it in Scholastic bucks. So then the Scholastic bookstore, you can go ahead and replenish quite a bit.
So they're freeing up space to be able to get new stuff. I
Yeah.
know last time we went on was like encyclopedias or something, which makes sense, but there's a lot of other books I just didn't understand why we're getting rid of them every single.
Well, they say they haven't been checked out in like several years.
So it was like
Yeah.
10 years that was written on there that they haven't. And truly, some of them, I was kind of disheartened because it's Amelia Bedelia books, but the Amelia Bedelia books that I read as a kid are completely different from the Amelia Bedelia books that like my little ones are dabbing into.
And this doesn't
They've
mean they don't have
revamped
duplicate
it.
copies of a lot of these as well.
Okay.
True.
So
True.
Just for clarification, I just.
Yeah.
it's
So did
every-
she have $8,000 or $4,000 to spend then?
She
'cause
would
of the way
have
school-
if she had $8,000 in sales, she would have 4,000.
It's a lot of books.
I'm proud of her. My high
That's
school
awesome.
fair was $6,000, so I was like, dang, they did good. That's awesome.
Thank you for clarification.
All right, we got a motion, a second to approve the disposal of obsolete items. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 3, all those.
I always vote no because I
Oh.
can't stand getting rid of books.
All those.
It's just my thing.
all-
Oh,
No,
all
you
those.
oh, are you too?
Yeah, I was gonna say all those opposed.
Oh, sorry.
To.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That's a narrow vote there.
Just so it's open to the public, I've been taking some of them books to a teacher that we have at our church that does special ed. And she asks for the books and I give them to her. And the ones that are for her children that are older, then she passes them on to other schools and they've taken them instead of
that's
going in the
awesome.
dumpster.
That's
We do
great.
have a use
That's
for
great.
recycle.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe check with our
Thanks for telling us that.
5 libraries in the county if they need any. So.
They've asked them and they've
None of them?
used it.
Okay.
Yeah. And usually once they're declared obsolete, I mean, again, my first time here with this, but they'll give kids an opportunity to take them as well. Like if one happens to be a kid's favorite book, but
Yeah.
we have to go through this process first.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item D is the Special Education Funds Internal Control Policy. Dr. Razor.
Okay, we had 2 consecutive findings by the State Board of Accounts, and we had to create a new policy that shows that we're going to comply with the findings that they had and make sure that that finding does not occur. So our friends at Cinder Dalton Municipal Advisors wrote us a policy that makes sure we comply with the State Board of Accounts findings. So this will.
This follows the write-up that we had, Tyson, for the, what is it called?
Co-op?
No, what we had in our
Audit.
State Board of Accounts this year, the
Yeah,
write-up.
this is the results of our.
Collect, something about having internal controls.
Yes, this is an internal control.
Yeah.
'Cause we had the same thing at the county for
Yeah.
years and years and years. And we finally, commissioners did that. So I'm glad to see we're doing that as well. So
Yeah.
this writes up our internal controls.
Yes.
Perfect.
This was because of the last two
Yeah,
that we've
yeah,
had.
we had 4 findings and only 1 was a repeat finding. So we have to,
We're correcting it.
we're
with
correcting
this.
it. Yeah.
And then those
We've
improved-
corrected our others as well, but this was one that you have to then document through your board and then,
This is the one that she wanted us to put in the red folder in the safe. So when she came back, we
Yeah.
could say, hey, we've corrected it.
yes.
Do we have our, whoever deals with the internal controls sign off on any proof that we've not just put it in a folder and put it in the thing, or how do we handle
Well, we've made it board policy now.
So,
Yeah.
perfect.
And then I will, now that after you guys approve it, I will send it on to State Board of Accounts.
And does it need to go in, because it's internal controls, it's how we handle things. Do we need to maybe put that in our handbook?
It will, yes.
I think this is
That's
also
where
on
it'll
the
go.
revamp
Yeah.
list too.
That's what I'm getting at, some kind of taking that
Yeah.
and
Yes.
putting it in this.
We're gonna,
So the
yes,
future people can
Yeah.
see it and follow it. And
yes, yeah.
Perfect.
So yes, it will be added to the
Internal control.
newly found, thank you, Patty and Missy, for the newly found internal control book that we didn't know existed. So
Yep.
we'll add that to that.
Was that in the
Get
back
that
library?
updated.
It was in a drawer, wasn't it? In the closet.
What
Thank
year
you.
was on that one?
Yeah, I just want to make sure we use it.
What?
Is there a year on that one?
On the new or this one?
Yeah, on the original one that we're gonna add it to.
There is like a resolution in here that it was approved.
Never seen it.
Hold on a minute. It was, I want to say 2015. Because this is a letter in
Like it
this
was
book.
yesterday.
It's 10-year anniversary.
Is it?
It's
Yeah,
our
yeah.
anniversary.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's what it was.
Oh,
Actually, no, wait, it
15.
was, okay, so there's a letter in here that says it was, this was from Todd. This was received 2017, but this resolution was passed by the board by a 5-0 vote on June 13th, 2016. So none of us were on the board at that time.
16.
Tiffany might have been.
Oh yeah, Tiffany would have been. But never knew this thing existed until about a couple weeks ago.
So this
Mhm.
will be added to that, and then
Yes.
that can be updated as
Yep.
well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Moving on
Who made the
to,
motion and the second for that?
I did, but who seconded it?
I think I
I think
seconded.
it was John.
Okay. I didn't catch
If not, it is now.
that. Okay.
You want to go back and do it again?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the internal controls presented to us by the superintendent for our State Board of Accounts findings, and that we will add this to our new internal control handbook in this summer session of policies and procedures. That's my motion.
Not seconded.
Perfect. All right. Now, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Boom.
Cleared up, Tyson. Good job.
All right, moving on to item E is non-cert and administrator stipends along with head custodian pay. Did I say that right?
Correct.
Item E.
Yes. As well as treasurer and deputy treasurer.
Okay. Deputy and all right. Do I have a motion and a second to approve?
You want him to explain it first?
Well, okay, we can have him explain, then we can prove it and then talk about it. That's fine. Go ahead.
All right. We are recommending, as you know, the collective bargaining agreement was settled very late in the year, and we are just now getting around to also rewarding our non-certified and administrative staff commensurately as well. So we're going to be recommending a $4,100 stipend for our building administrators, year-round supervisors, and certified folks that are not covered by the collective bargaining agreement. A $2,000 stipend for our year-round and extended year non-certified folks, and a $1,500 stipend for our school year non-certified employees. Additionally, we are asking that the pay for head custodians be raised to $23.50 per hour, and that will be commensurate across the board. Then finally, as Ms. Wright and Ms. Beers have completed their probationary period and done so in an exemplary fashion, we are recommending that Ms. Wright's salary be raised to $71,500 per year, and Ms. Beers be raised to $52,000 per year. I do want to, that is the end of the recommendation. I do want to mention to everyone that we are continuing to look fully across the board on matters of pay equity for all of our employees. And we'll, as I said earlier in my report, we'll be coming back throughout the summer with further recommendations.
So I'll make a motion to approve the recommendations submitted to us by our superintendent.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on it?
I have. Anybody else? For me, I mean, thank you for our treasurer and our first deputy in those positions and their increase. I know when we did our interviews with you guys, it wasn't about the money. Our superintendent came to us and said that this is what he felt you guys deserved from the processes and the triage and the nightmares and the whole rollout that we've been through that frankly a lot of people don't know or do they understand. So I think it's well deserved. It's well below what we paid people in the past, but it still makes your value proven from us that we appreciate what you all did. For the stipends for the other ones, you know, hopefully this summer we can figure out some better pay for raises instead of yearly stipends for our certs. Unfortunately for this year, for a lot of us, it's been a free-for-all catch-up, and this, I hope, is towards the end of us free-falling and catching up. We as a group have just, you know, worked on a lot of things, and we're trying to sit down and get ready for budgets and collective bargaining and payroll fixes over the summer. So we are going to be busy. I'm very grateful for Mr. Razor and our entire staff and teachers, everybody that's done their due diligence, and this board, to be frankly. You guys have helped out a lot with each other and doing our what people just don't understand what we're doing. So that's it. Facebook, I get rambling. Yeah.
Good.
It's grateful. I really appreciate it. So well worth it. And I'm hoping to get this, you know, putting the custodians on a flat pay. We can work on the other people like we talked and getting that addressed. So in the future.
Thanks for working on that. I can't really add much to that. That was pretty good. Hit every corner. So
Thank you.
We've all been through it together.
yeah, hopefully we can figure something out this summer to keep our people paid and happy and keep them here for years to come. All right. All those in favor?
I have one last question.
Oh,
sorry, Tyson.
okay. No, you're
When are we going to pay this?
Because
That's going to be the question that everybody else.
what?
When are we going to cut the check? Patty, when are you going to cut this
right,
once we
Patty?
vote on this? Are we going to get to? We should vote at least something, because if this could be, I mean, the way it is around here, it could be long-winded 5 months from now. I personally think whatever, if you guys, as soon as possible,
yeah, I think
would be
that's
my recommendation or my motion.
As soon as we can do it. Yeah, we won't
Don't
delay
drag it on any further, because
Yeah.
we're paying these people for last year's work. Right.
Yeah,
So we're all good on
that's
that.
a fair question.
Do you need to say anything about there's got to be people that worked all year or half the year? Didn't we have?
But how did you broke that down?
I thought you said
Yeah.
you're
So if someone only worked half the year, they would get half. You must.
prorated.
Yeah, so you may want to amend
I will.
your motion, but people working half the year get half the stipend.
So I'm in my motion that for all the stipends, if you've worked less than half the year,
Less than a full year.
less than a full year, you get half the stipend.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second.
You'll second my amendment?
Yeah.
We need to vote on the amendment first, then.
Okay, so we have a motion second to amend. So if you've been here to reflect, if you've been here half of a year, you will get half of the stipend.
For all three capitals.
For
Yes.
all three that we've discussed.
So you have to have a minimum of half the year.
Yes.
Right.
Minimum of half the school year.
Thanks, John, for clarifying that.
Okay.
I forgot about that.
All right. All those in favor, raise
Headache
your right
for
hand.
work.
Now to the main motion.
Okay. Now we got to vote on
Everything,
everything.
which is the original motion.
So
Which
now-
was to approve all of this as requested with
Yep.
my amendment of the, got to be here, if you're not here full year.
Okay. So do I have a motion and a second to approve the non-cert administrator stipends, head custodian pay, our corporation deputy treasurer, and our corporation treasurer? Did I miss anybody else?
You said head custodian, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the 2350. Okay, good.
Yep.
Yep.
That'll be my motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Oh, go.
Whatever.
You
No,
want
go
to?
ahead. I already had written down John read it last time.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay,
John, you take it. All
I
right.
got it.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. No,
I did the
can't
last
do it again.
Are you ready?
My bad, my bad.
Moving on to item 8A, public comment. Mr. DeYoung, you are the one and only.
Mr. DeYoung at the high school of agriculture. So I feel like we were lost in the woods for a long time. I feel like we came together, we found a path, we're starting to find our way out. We stopped and got our insurance rates fixed. That's wonderful. We got our collective bargaining agreement taken care of. We got our stipend paid. And it looks to me, I can mark this off my list now, that we're getting some support staff taken care of. I think we're going to be out of the woods pretty soon. So thank you. We appreciate that very much. I did want to bring to attention, because last fall we did talk about capital projects. There was a budget that was posted, and there were a lot of items on there that were, I guess we could say, not so accurate. Maybe they weren't. So I guess what I would like to know is if those, are there any of those on the list that we do plan to go through with, or there was a lot of, well, the electronic signs were on there, painting, flooring, security updates, or any of those can go through with, or we got other ideas for capital projects? Because that's a big chunk of money, and I would just.
Well, in our budget hearing on the last day that we could do it, we told our current superintendent we were going to make a motion to amend all of that because we were not going to spend that money. And she had told us at that time, because it's part of the capital, she just needed to put something down, and it was a wish list, but that she would not do any of that without coming back to us. And Mike has at this point not come back to us with any projects that we're doing. So I would say no.
Okay. Great. If you do decide, just be transparent. That'd be great. Thanks.
Will do.
100%.
And
Absolutely, because there
all
were
I got.
things on that list that we were not aware of until that night, that we
yes,
were not in
I
favor
can
of.
tell.
So,
I have one last thing.
If I could have a public comment, hopefully I'm not stealing yours.
No.
I'd like to announce that the North Newton Lady Spartans are the sectional champions.
All right. Good deal.
Outstanding.
But no word on the boys whether they got out of
Nope,
the
no
open
word
ground
yet.
Okay. Awesome. Good for them. That is great.
One last thing.
Smart.
So this, I was talking to Mike about this, and I think we should vote on this. One of the ways that we can reward our summer employees is to, it was very confusing in my first year, 260 days, some people, some are 180, some are 210, some are whatever. I just confused the hell out of me. So what I was talking to Mike about, I think as a board, we should, and my motion would be to allow him to administer what he feels time off schedule for our summer months so that he can reward our staff, even though they're under contract or under agreement that they need to be 260-day employees or full-time. But there's some days that he's not going to need them, or a principal may not need somebody, or janitorial or whatever. I feel And I know you guys said in the past you've done stuff where you've had 4 days,
4-day work week.
4-day work weeks.
So
So
410s, yeah.
410. So my motion would be for the summer of 2025 to allow our superintendent, Mr. Razor, the authority to release and see fit how he wants to do the summer schedule for our staff for this summer.
Have something for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Well, I can do the motion now if you want. I actually made a motion.
Well, we didn't amend the agenda to
Yeah.
include that though.
Yeah, we can do
Sorry.
it. We can do it next time. There's
Do
still
you
plenty.
want to call an emergency session when we're done?
So what I'm really talking about is a week like 4th of July week, or this isn't the summer, or the week between Christmas and New Year's, where you have things that are going to need to be done, but
You're here for the summer at least, hopefully.
Yeah.
So at least gives you the ability now to take care of things.
yeah,
So I would like to, we've talked about it from what these guys told me in the past, and it just makes sense if you have the ability to reward our staff with, hey, take Fridays off or take a couple of days because we don't need them or whatever. And
well, and the other thing too about summer is, as I was saying earlier, summer's a very busy time in the school district. Getting things done to me is more important than putting the time in. So if you guys can hustle and mulch a building today, and you want to take off early on Friday or on Thursday, take off early and
Correct.
that type of thing.
All right, so we'll address it at the next meeting, put on the agenda, but I just wanted to discuss that.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
The board
Right.
law.
Huh?
Okay.
Boys did
Oh, the boys lost. I don't know.
motion to adjourn.
A second.
I will second that.
Oh, you're gonna do it?
Yeah, I'm gonna second. I can't do it.
I'll do it.
Oh, you did it.
I can do it. All right. All those in favor to adjourn the meeting of March 28th or May 28th, excuse me, raise your right hand.
Yeah, please don't take us back to March.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We adjourn.
Just said March 23rd.
We've come so far since then.
So my